Do you want to be ahead of the game for the latest in arts, music, cuisine, and entertainment across the Middle East's most dynamic capital cities? Al Monitor is proud to launch our City Pulse newsletters, focused exclusively on local news, starting in Riyadh, Dubai, Istanbul, and Doha. Each week, our on-the-ground writers in these cities cover the latest cultural happenings and trends, so you have everything you need to know for the best local experiences. To subscribe for free, go to almonitor.com, that's al-monitor.com, and sign up on our newsletter page.
Iran came to the summit looking for support. I think Beijing is still being cautious. China wants to protect its interests and doesn't necessarily want a confrontation with the West or the US, particularly with the ongoing tariff negotiations. And it doesn't want to overcommit militarily also.
Welcome back to the Al Monitor Brief. I'm Adam Lucente. China hosted a military parade on Wednesday, with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, as well as the leaders of Azerbaijan, Armenia, and other countries in attendance. The parade came on the heels of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or SCO, summit in Tianjin. In addition to Pezeshkian, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan was present, as was Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli. Iran formally joined the China and Russia-led political and economic organization in 2023, while Egypt and Turkey are dialogue partners of the bloc. This year's summit yielded a number of economic deals Egypt and Turkey made with China, while Iran sought to build support for its nuclear program amid the looming snapback sanctions triggered by the United Kingdom, France, and Germany. In this episode, we hear from Al Monitor's news reporter, Rosaline Carroll. Rosaline, who is currently authoring the Al Monitor China Middle East newsletter, takes us through what Iran, Turkey, and Egypt accomplished in Tianjin, and what the summit says about China's objectives in the Middle East. Hope you enjoy. Rosaline, welcome back to the Al Monitor Brief.
Thanks, Adam. Glad to be here.
Rosaline, in your newsletter this week, you wrote that the SCO is evolving into a stage for China's Middle East diplomacy. What are Beijing's goals in the region, and how are they evident at the summit?
Well, I think the SCO is increasingly becoming a place for China to show off its role in the Middle East and elsewhere without committing militarily. Beijing's goals are mostly economic and diplomatic, like securing energy, supporting BRI, Belt and Road Initiative projects, and offering an alternative to Western-led institutions. At the summit last weekend, you could see this in action. Egypt and Turkey signed some major investment deals in renewables and gas and desalination, and China gave Iran diplomatic support against potential UN sanctions. So I think it's really about building influence through trade, investment, and political signaling rather than about security guarantees like NATO might be.
And on the topic of Iran, what did we learn about Iran-China ties during the summit? And is that relationship as close as Tehran wants it to be?
Iran came to the summit looking for support, especially with UN snapback sanctions looming. Tehran and Beijing and Moscow rejected the Europeans' recent move to reactivate sanctions, and President Xi Jinping publicly backed Iran's right to civilian nuclear energy program. But while the ties are helpful and I guess you could say close, I think Beijing is still being cautious. China wants to protect its interests and doesn't necessarily want a confrontation with the West or the US, particularly with the ongoing tariff negotiations. And it doesn't want to overcommit militarily also. So I think Iran is getting diplomatic backing, but it's probably not getting everything it might want.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with Rosaline after this short break.
Today's transformation of the Middle East is at the center of global geopolitics. Whether you're an analyst, diplomat, executive, or academic, you need the best reporting and analysis to understand what's really happening on the ground and what it means for the world. Al Monitor is the award-winning independent leader in Middle East news. From Riyadh to Beirut, Abu Dhabi to Doha, and Baghdad to Tehran, our team of over 100 expert journalists report daily on the top stories driving the regional trends. Download our mobile app and subscribe to Al Monitor to follow what leaders and decision makers are reading every day. Go to almonitor.com, that's AL-MONITOR.com, and use promo code POD25, POD25 for a discount.
Okay, we're back. Rosaline, which Middle East or North African country do you think most emerged as a winner in China this week?
I would say I think probably Egypt walked away as the biggest winner, at least economically. The country secured around 1 billion from Chinese firms for renewable energy and desalination projects, which aligns with Egypt's own plan to get 42% of its energy from renewables by 2030 and expand its water and desalination infrastructure. Turkey also made important deals, but I think Egypt's wins were more immediate and concrete in terms of development and investment.
And finally, what are some of the limits the SCO faces, especially in comparison to other supranational bodies like NATO that you mentioned, or perhaps the European Union?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the SCO, as it stands, is more a diplomatic stage than a functioning supranational body. It doesn't have binding security commitments like NATO, and it's far from the regulatory or economic integration of the EU. I mean, internal rivalries like between China and India also make it hard to act decisively as one collective body. And even ambitious moves like the planned SCO Development Bank, which the member states agreed on during this summit, will also be pretty difficult to put into action. So with the SCO, there's so far been a sort of gap between intentions and reality. But that said, the SEO still matters symbolically. It lets China project its influence and show off an alternative model of global governance, especially as US engagement around the globe recedes.
Rosaline, thanks a lot for your time, and we look forward to more of your newsletters and reporting on this topic.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Al Monitor Brief. Be sure to follow Al Monitor for more on the stories impacting the Middle East. Until next time, I'm Adam Lucente.